I'm on day 32 of my deuterium depleted water experiment, and I thought day 32 would be a good day to have an update. I think it's been about 20 days since my last update on this. Specifically, I did a kind of a deuterium depletion strategies video after that one. But yeah, I think it's been about 20 days, which sounds crazy. Day 32 already. And I have noticed some changes that I think might be related to the water, but also I've done a number of other things to improve my body's deuterium status. I was kind of shocked that coming into this, my body's deuterium level was so high, but I think that's largely due to the fact that I relaxed a lot recently. Just prior to this experiment, I relaxed a lot on my ketogenic diet. It was still a very strict ketogenic diet, but I was eating more frequently than I was before. I used to adopt a much more strict time-restricted feeding regime where I was only eating twice a day, and then my weight got too low, so I kept thinking, okay, I'm gonna add an extra meal, and then that extra meal became an extra meal and some snacks in between, and my symptoms weren't as well controlled. So when I had that kind of result, which gave me a kind of a shock to change things, that's exactly what I did. And since I made that video where I said, okay, I'm going to focus on my sleep, I'm going to eat less frequently and really focus on nutrient-dense foods, eating all the foods I was doing before, when I think that my body's deuterium level must have been much lower because I had a lot more energy and I felt better. That's one of the things. If you've got high level of deuterium in the body, you kind of feel a lot more sluggish, and I definitely was having less energy even though I was eating more food, and my blood ketones weren't as high as they were, and I was getting more. I wasn't just getting more seizure activity, but I was also starting to have problems with my depression coming back, and just those feelings in my head. And it's not just kind of like being depressed, it's actual just on a much deeper level, a lot more serious than that. But now just it's back to how it used to be, but probably even better, because since I've been drinking this water, the main thing that I've noticed from it, which definitely could be the water, is, because we don't know if it could be the water, it could be just placebo, but with this thing I have noticed that I'm drinking half as much as I used to. And I think this could be maybe due to the fact that I have been encouraging my body to use more of the generated metabolic water to produce ATP. And I've been using more of the been generating more of the metabolic water from the fat that I'm consuming, and I've been using fat more efficiently for energy because I've cleaned up my ketogenic diet to be more therapeutic once more, and my symptoms have improved, my sleep has improved. And yeah, I also think that drinking the deuterium depleted water, it's kind of like a plaster over a wound if you're going back on a proper ketogenic diet, like a more therapeutic ketogenic diet. Because the main mechanism of the ketogenic diet for cancer management is deuterium depletion, because you are generating more metabolic water from fat. It's nearly twice as much as from carbohydrates, and that water that you are generating is naturally lower in deuterium. So it's good to have your body's deuterium at about 100 parts per million, I think it is. And drinking water is 150 parts per million, normal drinking water. So if you're drinking too much water, which I think that was one of my problems before I started this water experiment. I noticed I was drinking more water and I was more thirsty. I was just getting thirsty more frequently. And I have this kind of theory where it could be a thing where you're not using that water as efficiently as you can, so you're actually becoming more thirsty. This is just a theory, I don't know, but it seems to be plausible in a way that kind of like how diabetics get really thirsty all the time, but I don't know if that's just to do more with insulin, but this could be part of it as well. Anyway, yeah, you're encouraging your body to use fat for energy more, and that energy is more from deuterium depleted water. And so drinking this water can help you to lower your body's deuterium levels, and maybe that makes you less thirsty. That's the biggest thing I've noticed. Just I'm drinking 1 liter to 1.5 liters of water a day, and literally I was drinking about half that amount. I mean, I was drinking about twice that amount, and even though another thing is that I've been doing exercise every morning, and I've been waking up really early naturally, and just having lots of energy, and so I've just been using that energy to work out in the mornings. And keeping in mind I have reflex epilepsy, I haven't had much of an issue with that, which is normally an absolutely massive issue for me. And it's the reason why even when I get into exercise, I often get to this point where I can't continue. Just my brain shuts down. Or during a workout, I'll have this seizure activity and I'll have to stop if I try and increase the intensity, or if I try and keep going, whatever I'm doing. But fingers crossed that hasn't happened yet, and I've been having more and more energy, and this has happened just over the past couple of weeks, which is, I don't think it's just the water. I don't actually think just the water alone would give you these effects. I think it's a combination of things. I've also been having using the Juve, the red light therapy device, whatever you want to call it. It uses near infrared light, and that's been great. I've had times where I felt kind of lacking in energy, or I've had some inflammation under my eyes, just bags under my eyes, or I just haven't been feeling as energized as I have, or I've been looking at blue light too much during the day, and then I've used the Juve light, and it's just, I use it 10 minutes front and back, naked, as close to the device as I can, and you can stare right into it. It doesn't damage your eyes in any way. It actually helps your eyes. It's anti-inflammatory, and the eyes are an extension of the brain, so that could have an effect that way. I also expose the part of my head where the tumour was to it. I don't know if that has any effect, but I definitely think exposing my having that light going into the retina has an effect. Also improves my sleep. I've found if I have it before bed, it seems to improve my sleep quality. I can only assess that by how I feel, but my mum's been doing this as well, and she is dealing with a very poor prognosis from her cancer. So yeah, she has actually seemed to be benefiting from all these things, which is good. And she started to have hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which is what I had a while ago, and I feel like I should do that a bit more, just for prevention. So I'm doing all these things for cancer prevention. I still have I haven't had a scan for a while, but I feel really good. I feel the best that I've felt for a scan ever, I think. And I think my symptoms are a lot to go by. My symptoms are very well controlled at the moment. It's become agitated a few times because I've been pushing myself a lot more. And I've had a little bit of a crisis of confidence because I'm dealing with work that's challenging and is very new to me. So I'm encountering frustrations with that, but I just need to remember that I've done well to get to this position, and if I just persevere, I can learn how to overcome these obstacles. It's a privilege to actually be in this position where I'm doing my own research and helping other people with their research. And it's worthwhile work, I feel, because it's in the specific areas that I'm interested in working on to make an actual difference. That was my main motivation going back to studies a few years ago, that I wanted to have an impact in some way, in some useful way, to change the climate that we see that needs to be changed. So yeah, I'm doing really well with my therapeutic ketogenic diet now. And my body composition's changing as well in a favourable way. I'm putting on lean tissue and I'm losing. I had a bit of excess, even though I'm always quite lean, but I had more adipose tissue than I wanted to a few weeks ago, and that seems to have almost completely disappeared now. It's just you get that kind of back fat. If you're kind of skinny, sometimes you still have this either love handles or just this fat that it seems to accumulate at the back. I guess for young men sometimes you get that. But, yeah, that's almost completely gone now in just a few weeks, and I'm quite lucky in that respect that I don't know if it's luck or if I adhere to these very strict diets very well, and lifestyle. But I notice changes in my body composition very quickly. I think I'm metabolically very flexible as well, because even with small changes in my diet, I can achieve very deep ketosis. And it's made even better that I'm sleeping better, because when you sleep better, you can keep the blood glucose low and the ketones high even in the morning after you've woken up. So yeah, it does obviously vary throughout the day, but I'm maintaining that therapeutic zone for me that controls my seizure activity well, and just as importantly, my mental state and how I'm feeling. And also just doing the exercise every morning helps me hugely. I feel great benefit from that. Sometimes it's even just simple stuff like going for walks in the morning. I go for at least a 2-hour walk every day, and I do some bodyweight exercises. And I'm trying to increase my pull-up number. Before I was diagnosed, I could do sets of 20. And I want to try, and this is with strict form, so I want to try and eventually build up to that. Going to start to do rock climbing, because I want to have some fun in my life and not just focus on cancer all the time. And it gives me some goals as well. It's a kind of a goal that you can see as well, because you're trying to get to the top of, I don't know what you'd call a rock climbing wall, like a course in a way, like you have a course, like a race course, but can you have just a climb? Let's say you get to the top of a climb, and it's kind of a metaphorical and a thing that you can visually see, thing that can be quite powerful. So yeah, looking forward to that, and just trying to be a bit more chilled, but have my goals as well. I'm working on a couple of projects at the moment, which I'm quite excited about, and fingers crossed they'll go well. One is lab-based, and one is computational biology, which is kind of boring, but the results should be interesting, should be exciting. So those are my updates. I'll do another experiment. I'll do another test for my body's deuterium level, because I need to do that. And I'm pretty sure it'll be a lot lower than it was. It was in the saturated range before, which was not good. I think it was around 140, almost 150 parts per million. Which is, yeah, it's in the saturated range. That was from my breath. Deuterium levels from breath and also from saliva. So I'm hoping to get that right down. They usually say that it's in about 4 weeks the level will drop substantially. So yeah, I've mainly been having 100 parts per million in my water. I've been drinking Preventer. Initially I was actually drinking Clarivia, and I had 48 bottles of that. I went through those quite quickly, and then since then I've been on Preventer, which is carbonated. Clarivia is still water. Preventer is carbonated, but I like carbonated water. The good thing is you can boil it as well. I was questioning whether I could do that, but you can, and it doesn't substantially change the water. I think that if you boiled it for a long time it could, or if you boiled it and you left it for a while, then yeah, just that process would change the water. So yeah, it's good that you can boil it, but normally I just have it normally as it is, and I create the dilution that I need, and I just put it into a glass bottle like this. Unfortunately, the water comes in a plastic bottle, the deuterium depleted water, but I can understand the reasons behind that, and I asked about it, and the plastic doesn't leach into the water, which is good. It's had tests for that. And putting it into this means that I can go out with it, and I've mixed it with this Voss water, so it's a good quality water that I've mixed it with, to get the desired parts per million I want of deuterium. You don't want to start too low. You want to gradually deplete, and you want to have an amount that's applicable for you as an individual, because different people need different amounts based on their baseline reading and their individual circumstances. I'm using it for cancer prevention, so my circumstances are different for my mother, who's doing it for active disease that's all over the place. And she will eventually, I think, go down to 85 parts per million, and then maybe lower and lower. But over time, we're looking at the cancer markers and the scans, and she's got a scan coming up soon. So that will be very telling. She's had a good experience so far in terms of how she feels, which we shouldn't discount that. If you've got metastatic disease like that, how you feel is quite important, especially if you've encountered periods where you've had pain related to the cancer as well. So when you have that pain easing off and you're feeling more energized, and she had this kind of cancer smell as well, which it sounds funny, but it's a very noticeable kind of smell in the areas where the cancer is. So she had it when she actually had a previous malignancy, and then it went away when that seemed to also seemed to have a remission, and the smell went away. But now this smell has returned, but then it seems to sometimes go away but then come back, and it's always in those areas. So that's interesting. It's like how dogs can smell cancer. This is quite a pungent kind of smell, so you can smell it. And she does wash, so it's not like it's anything else, but it's an interesting phenomenon that we've noticed. And if you talk about it, people might think you're crazy. If you talk about drinking water for cancer, people might think you're crazy too, because they think it's just water. But water has so many actions in the body. So it's important, metabolically, very important. And the mitochondrial matrix water is very, very important to consider, especially when you have cancer. Because that is, as with so many other processes, there's dysfunction in the hydrogen signaling of that water, and that affects how the mitochondria respire, because that's affecting the whole electron transport chain, especially that end bit with the ATP synthase, the oxidative phosphorylation. If you have heavy water there, you're having a less efficient production of energy, and you become more tired, and you don't produce ATP as efficiently, and the mitochondria doesn't function as efficiently. Interesting, I also learned that DCA, dichloroacetate, works on the mitochondria, but it works partly through depleting deuterium. It's interesting when you connect all the dots and you see there's this common theme of deuterium depletion, which is an emerging area that is fascinating, really. And it makes a lot of sense if you think about hydrogen signaling and how it affects the growth cycles of cells, and how uncontrolled growth is where you get cancer of all types. And if we can manipulate that through light water, deuterium depleted water, we can have more efficiency in the ATP synthase, the top bit, which is hydrophilic. That's the bit that you get that's where the magic happens. Of that ratchet system that produces the energy, the final step. So yeah, I'll continue with this and see how I go. I'll also try and have a body composition assessment because I'm at some point because I'm doing really well with that. It's not really important for me in a superficial way because I think I've proved that by emaciating myself purposely a few times while I've fasted. I actually fasted too much at one point, so I don't fast anymore. I do time restricted feeding, but I don't do prolonged fasting anymore because I lose weight too quickly. I'm too responsive to it in a way. And I feel like shorter fasts actually for me are still as beneficial as longer fasts for someone who's not as used to fasting or who's not on a therapeutic ketogenic diet where they're having these periods of deep ketosis. I just feel like I'm metabolically very flexible, so I could yield those benefits of a prolonged fast in a shorter space of time. It's kind of a theory I have. I'm not sure if that's strictly true. Another thing I found interesting is before this experiment, I was experimenting with natural sweeteners. So I was experimenting with stevia, or stevia, however you want to pronounce it, stevia and erythritol, and that could also be a reason why my, I didn't respond well to either, but it could also be a reason why, I don't know, but why my deuterium levels were higher, because erythritol, I think, is from corn, and corn is high in deuterium, so even if your blood glucose is not being negatively affected by the sweetener, if it's high in deuterium, that's not a good thing. Not a good thing for cancer. So it's interesting. And is it enough to be... I know that stevia should be okay. It actually is from a plant that is deuterium depleted, I think. So stevia should be okay. I don't react very well to it personally. And if you're doing a fast, you don't want stevia because it's still having a reaction from the liver to produce some insulin, even if it's a small amount. So you won't get the benefits of autophagy if you're going on a 3+ day fast if you're having stevia, I don't think. That's my opinion. So I avoid sweeteners completely. Very, very occasionally, I might have a little bit of stevia, just for something different. But I don't, if I crave any kind of sweetness, or not crave, but if I desire any kind of sweetness, I always think maybe there's an issue. Because when I do my diet correctly and I'm also sleeping well and I'm keeping the stress down and all these things, I don't desire any sweetness. And if I do, then I assume something's wrong. And interestingly, since I've been on the water as well, and since I think I've adapted to it, not that you need any kind of adaptation really, because it's just like drinking normal water, it tastes the same, and there's no noticeable real differences. But apart from drinking less, and I'm less hungry as well. So before I was doing this experiment, I was starting to get more hungry. I was eating more often, even though it was ketogenic. And I wasn't sleeping as well, and all these things that I think back on and I think, it's interesting how now I'm less hungry, I'm doing more exercise. Even though I'm doing more exercise, I'm drinking less, and I'm feeling better as well. But the drinking less thing is the most interesting thing for me. Just drinking literally half what I used to drink. And I was monitoring my water intake before as well. So yeah, just eating less and at specific times. I'm only really eating twice a day now. And I was doing that before. I was doing so many things before that I kind of forgot about and slipped into bad habits, just from initially trying to increase weight because I'd lost too much weight. But now I'm losing adipose tissue, so I'm losing body fat, and I'm eating adequately. The protein intake is the same as it was when I was eating more, and my routine is much better. I also think that for the exercise, I've been able to recover better doing the red light therapy, and I actually physically feel it. I physically feel like my muscles are recovering, even though it's not like I'm doing exercise that's particularly tasking, but because I haven't been able to push myself for so long, and because I was having problems with my reflex epilepsy always has an external cause, and exercise is one of them. Because I was having problems with that before this experiment, I was kind of scared to get into exercise again and push myself. But gradually I've been able to push myself once more, and it's quite encouraging. And I'm interested to see with the rock climbing how much I can push it. I might even try and do a few competitions in future, because I really miss competitive sports. I used to do a lot of competitive sport, and I was quite good at it, I think anyway. So to get back to that is a huge thing for me. And I've rambled along. I've rambled enough for now. So yeah, things are going well, and keep you up to date with how things go in future. Hope you've learned more about deuterium depleted water from this, and if you'd like to know more, or if you'd like to experiment with it yourself, or if you have any questions, just get in touch and I'll let you know what I think about it and what I've learned. So have a good day, and see you soon.